What do you do when your husband disappears for 20 years? Your house fills with men trying to marry you, and saying no could destroy your son's future. If you are Penelope, queen of Ithaca, you commit the strangest act of rebellion in Greek mythology. You make a blanket, then you secretly destroy it. Every day, Penelope sits at her loom and weaves a burial shroud, while dozens of suitors watch her like impatient investors waiting for a project update. They think, once she finishes this cloth, she has to choose one of us. But every night when the palace goes quiet, Penelope walks back to the loom and pulls the whole thing apart. Why? Because that unfinished cloth is the only thing delaying a political takeover. And the dangerous part is not the lie. The dangerous part is how long she has to keep everyone believing it. To understand why this trick matters, you have to understand who Penelope is before everything goes wrong. She is not just Odysseus's wife, sitting around like a decorative statue with abandonment issues. She is queen of Ithaca, mother of Telemachus, and one of the sharpest minds in Greek mythology. And that is important, because Greek mythology is basically a museum of powerful people making emotional decisions near weapons. Achilles gets angry, Agamemnon gets proud, Odysseus gets clever, Penelope gets quiet. That is the mistake everyone makes about her. They think quiet means weak. They think patience means surrender. They think if she is not shouting, fighting, or sailing across the sea, then she is doing nothing. But Penelope understands something more dangerous than strength. She understands timing, and soon, timing is the only thing keeping her family alive. Then Odysseus leaves for Troy. At first, this should be simple. He goes to war, helps the Greeks win, comes home, hugs his son, reclaims his house, and probably tells one extremely long dinner story about how clever he was. But that is the first disaster. The Trojan War lasts 10 years. For 10 years, Penelope waits in Ithaca. Every ship on the horizon could be news. Every rumor could be hope. Every silence could mean death. Then Troy falls. The Greeks sail home, and Odysseus still does not arrive. Now the problem changes. Penelope is not just a loyal wife anymore. She is maybe a widow, maybe abandoned, maybe married to a ghost. Ancient Greece has no tracking app, no message, no "seen at 3:42 p.m., just sailors, gossip, and men confidently reporting things they absolutely cannot prove. And when a throne looks empty, hungry people start walking toward it. At first, the suitors do not arrive like villains. That is what makes it worse. They arrive like guests. Polished clothes, noble names, fake respect. The ancient Greek version of networking with wine and bad intentions. Then they stay, and keep staying. These men are not politely asking Penelope to move on. They are eating through Odysseus's wealth while waiting for his wife to surrender. They slaughter his animals, drink his wine, insult his household, and treat Telemachus like an annoying pop-up ad standing between them and a throne. Officially, they want marriage. Unofficially, they want Ithaca, because whoever marries Penelope gets more than a wife. He gets Odysseus's house, his land, his name, and control over the boy who might someday challenge him. The mistake is thinking this is romance. It is not. It is a takeover wearing perfume. So why does Penelope not just throw them out? Because that would be nice. And mythology hates nice solutions. The suitors are sons of powerful families. If Penelope insults them openly, Ithaca could explode into violence. If she lets them stay, they slowly drain the palace. If she chooses one, she hands Odysseus's kingdom to a man who has basically been eating his way into power. So every option is terrible. If she remarries, Telemachus becomes yesterday's paperwork. If she refuses forever, the suitors grow angrier. If she waits, the palace loses food, money, servants, and authority. This is the trap of being queen. Penelope has status but not freedom. She has a throne but not safety. She has power but only inside rules made by men currently eating her dinner. So she chooses the one weapon nobody expects: delay. Penelope tells the suitors she will choose a husband after she finishes weaving a burial shroud for Laertes, Odysseus's aging father. It is perfect, respectful, traditional, impossible to criticize. Even the suitors, professional parasites though they are, cannot publicly complain that a queen is honoring an old man without sounding like villains in every possible version of the story. So they wait. By day, Penelope weaves. By night, she unweaves. That is the trick. The suitors think they are watching progress. They think every thread brings them closer to victory. But every night, Penelope quietly deletes the future they are waiting for. This is not sewing. This is psychological warfare with thread. For years, the trick works. The men feast, brag, complain, and posture. Penelope keeps weaving just enough hope to keep them trapped. But every lie has one weakness. Someone has to keep it secret. And here is where the joke has to stop for a moment. Because Penelope is not just outsmarting annoying dinner guests, she is living inside a house where every hallway has ears. Every meal reminds her that her power is being eaten. Every delay makes dangerous men more impatient. Her husband may be dead. Her son is growing up surrounded by men who would benefit if he disappeared. And Penelope has to keep performing calm because fear is exactly what they want from her. Imagine grieving someone for years while strangers treat your grief like a vacancy sign. That is the real pressure behind the loom. Not romance, not cute patience, survival. The mistake is thinking Penelope is waiting because she has nothing else to do. She is waiting because moving too soon could destroy everything. And then the one thing she cannot afford finally happens. Someone exposes her. A servant reveals the secret, and suddenly the suitors realize they have been losing to a loom for years. 3 years of fake progress, 3 years of polite excuses, 3 years of being defeated by fabric. Naturally, they handle this with the calm, emotional maturity Greek noblemen are famous for. They get furious. Now the palace feels smaller. The pressure sharpens. Telemachus is not just a child anymore. He is becoming a young man, which makes him dangerous to anyone trying to steal his father's throne. That is the next disaster. The suitors start seeing him less as an inconvenience and more as a problem. For Penelope, the stakes change. This is no longer only about protecting Odysseus's memory. It is about keeping her son alive long enough to have a future, and then hope returns in the cruelest possible way. Rumors begin to arrive. A sailor says Odysseus may be alive. A stranger claims he heard his name. Someone says he is trapped. Someone else says he drowned. Every rumor walks into Ithaca wearing the shape of an answer, and every answer falls apart. This is its own kind of torture. If Penelope believes too much, she looks foolish. If she gives up too soon, she betrays the man she loves. So she lives in the worst possible middle, not married, not widowed, not free, not finished. After 20 years, loyalty stops looking romantic. It starts looking brutal. Waiting is easy for a day, noble for a year. After 2 decades, it becomes endurance with teeth. And then, after all the false stories, after all the almost news, one more stranger enters the palace. A beggar. To everyone else, he looks like another ruined man at the edge of the hall. Dirty, tired, easy to mock. The suitors see weakness. Penelope sees uncertainty, and uncertainty is dangerous, because after 20 years, you cannot trust appearances. Hope has worn too many costumes. Men have brought stories, lies, rumors, and convenient little miracles. So when this beggar speaks with strange confidence and hints that Odysseus may still live, Penelope does not collapse into belief. She listens. That is what makes her powerful. She wants truth more than comfort. Across the room, the man she has waited for is finally inside his own house. But Penelope has survived too much to be fooled by dramatic timing. If this stranger is connected to Odysseus, he will have to prove it. So she brings out the bow. Penelope announces the contest. Whoever can string Odysseus's great bow and shoot an arrow through 12 axe heads will become her husband. It sounds like surrender. That is the mistake. Because the bow is not just a weapon. It is personal, heavy, stubborn, almost a password made of wood and muscle. The suitors think this is their chance. One by one they step forward. They strain, they sweat, they fail. Turns out stealing a king's dinner is much easier than lifting his weapon. Then the beggar asks to try. The room laughs, because of course it does. Then he takes the bow, strings it with terrifying ease, and suddenly the joke dies in everyone's throat. The man they mocked is not a beggar. Odysseus has returned. But Penelope is still not finished. After 20 years, Penelope does not need a dramatic reveal. She needs verification. So she gives one final test. She tells a servant to move their marriage bed. Odysseus erupts, because that bed cannot move. He built it himself, around a living olive tree, rooted into the floor. Only the real Odysseus would know that. Only her husband would understand why moving it is impossible. And there it is. Proof stronger than a scar, louder than any heroic speech. The mistake would have been accepting the first answer, the first face, the first emotional moment that looked like relief. Penelope does not make that mistake. She tests the truth before she trusts it, and that is why her loyalty was never weakness. It was intelligence under pressure. Odysseus gets the monsters, the storms, the gods, the shipwrecks, the songs men die to hear. His suffering is loud enough for legends. Penelope's suffering is quieter, which makes it easier to miss. She does not cross the sea. She survives the room. She does not fight a cyclops. She faces men who smile while stealing her future. She does not tie herself to a mast. She ties herself to a promise when everyone tells her to let go. That was her Odyssey. Not movement, but endurance. Not adventure, but resistance. Not empty waiting, but strategy. Odysseus survived the sea to return home. Penelope survived the home long enough for there to be one. If you think that story deserved to be told, leave a like. It takes 2 seconds, and it's the only thing that tells me to keep digging up stories like this. I'll see you in the next one.